Wellness with Jason Clemmons, DC, on this Monday, October 30th. And we are coming to you live from the Rock Health and Wellness Center's studios right here in Lubbock, Texas. We got a great show planned for you tonight. I'm excited to be here as always. It's one of my most favorite days of the week is Monday. Get to come back and get to work and get after it today. And I'm really glad that I got that opportunity, and I'm really glad that I'm here. We are having a little bit of trouble on the radio, so this may be a little bit disjointed as we try to figure out how we can get ourselves back on the radio. My connection didn't work today, and so I maybe having to answer some emails back and forth and try to figure out if I can figure out what to do. And so right now we're just going to go with it, and I hope the guys over at the station can work on it and figure it out. But we're going to get after it anyway, because that's life, right? It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work exactly like you thought it would. And sometimes you just got to try it and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, what else are you going to do? You can't just give up. You can't just give up and stop. So we're just going to try it. We're just going to go with it. And I'm really sorry that we're not showing up tonight. On the radio. But we are showing up on the Rock Health and Wellness Center's Facebook page at Health from the Rock on YouTube, and on X at Jason Clemmons DC. So we're just going to try it for a little while and see what happens. See if we can have a good show anyway. Got some praises for the day. Had some really good adjustments today. Had some really good conversations. We got a lot of fun things going on at the office as far as some patient response and patient care. It's really we got some new patients that have started. We've got some older patients who are working through some things, and some of the newer patients that have started are really starting to see the benefit of getting adjusted. And so it's been really fun to watch their progress as they've been working through this new life for them, because it is a new life for them, right? It's a new life to think that they can be healthy and that they don't have to live their life on medication, and that if you put the body in the proper environment, then the body will express health. It's just a really interesting thought right there, right? So they're having some new experiences, and they're having some experiences where when they get adjusted early in the week, they're feeling really good on Monday and Tuesday, and by the time they get to the end of the week, they're starting to feel a little funky, is the word that I heard today. I thought it was cute. She said, I felt a little funky at the end of the week. And I was like, yeah, well, that's what the end of the week will do to you sometimes, right? We start off, we've gotten some rest over the weekend. We picked up, we're doing well. And then all of a sudden we get to the Thursday or Friday and we start to run out of juice. And we don't do quite as well when we get to the end of the week. And so it's a good indicator of how healthy we are. And it's a good indicator of how we are responding to our environment. And that's really a big deal, right? So if you're finding yourself, number one, if you're finding yourself where you're getting a little bit tired towards the end of the day, that's one thing that you can kind of gauge your health on. And another thing is, if you're getting tired towards the end of the week, that's another way to gauge your health. So everybody on Mondays, we're kind of fired up. We're ready to go. We're all excited about the week, right? Right? Isn't that what everybody is out there? Isn't everybody excited and fired up for the week? Okay, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it because that's kind of what the show is going to be about tonight. Is the different groups that we have. And it was really interesting that on church on Sunday that they started a new lesson, a new series on temptation. And I had gone to a gala on Friday night. I'd gotten invited to go to a gala on Friday night, and I'd gone to the gala and there was some temptation at the gala. It was put on there was a little bit of I don't know what there was. There was some chocolate pie, and there was some pecan pie, and there was some chocolate cake. And some of the people that I might have been sitting with at the table, which is really funny because this is what happens when you're the weirdo, right? When you're the guy that's weird, what happens is you make everybody else at the table uncomfortable, and so it wasn't my fault that this particular person was choosing the temptation. They were being tempted and they were losing out to the temptation. But I don't want to get too much into it quite yet because I think it'd be a pretty cool conversation that we could have about that. But the it's really funny when you're the guy at the table and you're not participating in any of that dessert any longer. You're not participating in the sugar. I don't care if anybody else does. I didn't say a single word about it. I didn't look at anybody's plate. I didn't look and try to make them feel guilty. I was just trying to be social and enjoy the evening with my wife and just have a great night out, right? But sometimes when you're out there, you make a little bit of you make people uncomfortable, and so a little of that was going on Friday night, and it was kind of funny because, well, I'll get into that part here in a bit. I'll get into that part when we get into the show. But there's a great if you're not doing so great by the afternoon, you tend to lean into that temptation a little bit, right? It's very common to say to when you are not when you're tired, your state of mind is going to kind of allow you to weaken a little bit and make some of those choices that aren't as good for you that you could make, right? So, and then when that starts happening, what ends up happening is as your week goes on, as your day goes on, you start to get tired. And as your week goes on, you start to get tired. And that should be an indicator for you that, hey, I'm not in the right zone. I'm not where I should be, and I'm not doing the things that I should be doing to make sure that I am functioning to the way that I should be functioning, right? If that's something that is really should get your attention. If you get home at the end of the day and you sit in your chair and boom, you can go to sleep within seconds, that should get your attention. If you get to 2:00 in the afternoon and you're fatigued and you got to have some sort of pick me up because you can't make it through the afternoon, that should get your attention. Your blood sugar's off. Your body's not functioning properly. Something that's why they call them hump days, right? You get to Wednesday, it's just like, well, I can barely make it through this week, and I can't wait to get till Friday. Thank God it's Friday, right? Well, that mentality is wearing us out, and it's something that leads to decay and death. It leads to disease and sickness, right? And you really want to know. You really want to know if you're on that track to disease and sickness, which we're all on the track to death, right? We're all going to die. Nobody gets out of this thing alive. But do you go out like Miss Goss, my lady from Littlefield, right? I took care of her for 15 years or 14 years, whatever it was. I think I picked her up when she was 75 and walked with her till she was 89. And she lived by herself and functioned by herself and was out in the yard picking weeds all the way up to 2 weeks before she passed. Or like the delay between the end of good health and the end of her life was about 2 weeks. She made it 89 years working, doing pretty dang good. And then it was 2 weeks and she was gone. Like, that's the goal, right? That's where we want to be. We would way rather do that than to move ourselves in a bad direction for a long period of time. And those are little keys for us. Those are little things that we might be able to understand about what's going on if we're having those moments where we just can't get through the day, or we can't get through the week, or we have a lot of energy on Monday, but by the time Wednesday gets here, we start to go down. And then of course, that's exactly what that's what we're trying. That's why we talk about moving our feet. That's why we talk about eating properly. That's why we talk about all those things that we do. And the biggest thing is our why, right? I still believe our why trumps everything. And on Wednesday night, I got, remember last week was my birthday, and I got a gift card from one of my patients, just a lovely lady. I love her to death. She's doing fantastic. And she gave me a $25 gift card to go to Barnes and Noble. And so I thought on Saturday, I thought this would be cool. There's a gym here in town that called Gym Culture, and I was wanting to check that out. I was wanting to see that it's a new building that's not far from our office, and I was wanting to go check that out. And so I went over there and checked it out, and it was a nice cold day on Saturday here in Lubbock. And I went over there and learned about the gym, and talked to the girl up the front. She gave me a tour. She did a fabulous job, by the way. And then I thought, I got to get to work. I got things to do. And I thought, no, you know what you really should do? You should just go to Barnes and Noble. And so I thought, all right, I'll do it. I'll take 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever, and I'll just go to Barnes and Noble, and then I'll get back to work. Well, so I went in, and I walked in the front door, and they got a bunch of tables sitting there of the new books and the latest thing and the whatever. And so I was just looking around at some of those different books, and I found a book. I left it sitting in there in my adjustment room, but it's called The Book of Charlie. And it's a story about a medical doctor from Kansas City who lived to be 109 years old. And so when I saw that it was the I don't remember exactly what the title is, the life and times or whatever of a 109-year-old man. And I thought, man, that looks intriguing right there. That looks like an interesting book. And I wonder how he got to be 109, because my goal is 113. And so I was like, I might ought to get that book, but I just put it down, and then I walked around, and I stayed in there for a little while. Maybe it's 45 minutes or something. Could have been an hour. I don't remember. But I just went through all the sections that were intriguing to me, and I might do a show on it. But it was really interesting. For the first time in my life, I looked at all those segments, those different parts of. I looked at all those different parts of those books and all those authors, and I thought to myself, all these people are just making this stuff up. Like, they don't know any more about anything else than anybody else does. Like, I got some of these books. I bought some of these books. One of them was Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve. That's one of the books that I picked up. So I haven't even gotten to this one yet. And it's by Stanley Rosenberg. And I don't know anything about Stanley Rosenberg, but it looked like an intriguing book. And so I kind of flipped through it and saw some of the stuff. And I was like, that'd be interested to see. I'm interested to see, but I don't think Stanley's going to teach me anything new about the vagus nerve, right? He just where did he get the data from, right? And then the other one, this is pretty authentic, the Wim Hof method. If you guys are familiar with this is the cold guy. This is the cold immersion guy. This is the guy that brought the science of cold immersion to us and explained to us how we get that, what happens to us when we have that cold immersion, and we get that up and to the right, over to the left process. And so I thought, you know what? I've done some study. I've watched him on YouTube. I should really pay attention to what I'd like to read the book. I'd like to see if there's anything in the book that might give me a little bit more data on how that works out. But that little book that I bought, the Book of Charlie, it wasn't a diet book. It didn't hardly talk about what Charlie ate at all. Matter of fact, Charlie smoked most of his life, and he drank alcohol for a part of his life. And he had all kinds of adventures and stuff. But the one thing that it was like, how did he get through it? How did he get to 109 years old and still making the rounds at the hospital at 99 years old? Like, he was an anesthesiologist after he got out of the war. They taught him how to be an anesthesiologist. The biggest thing that I got from that book is that he just kept moving forward with his why. He just kept wanting to learn something new. He just kept wanting to, he was intrigued. He was intrigued by the day. He was intrigued by the next moment. So, man, I can't wait till Wednesday for the book review, because I just read the whole book this weekend. I read it on Saturday and came up here to the office, did some work, and then just spent the evening reading the book, and then read it finished it up on Sunday, and I really appreciate having the opportunity to do that. It was great. So Wednesday's going to be a great show. You guys are really going to enjoy that book and the breakdown of that book. But it comes back to the why, right? All of those things, all these things that we learned about the what's don't make any difference if you don't have a why. And if you do have a why, you can overcome a lot of this stuff. You really can. So that leads me into the idea of what we're going to cover tonight. And I just wanted to take the thoughts of what was going on during the sermon on Sunday at church, and because it was really, he was teaching. He started the sermon off teaching out of Proverbs 7. And I'm not trying to just reteach the sermons that I hear every Sunday, but it's the last couple have been really cool. Like they fit into what's going on with this. And y'all know how that works. Now the Lord works as far as that goes. It always will bring to us. It'll bring to us the things that we need to know now, right? And it was very interesting because he was in Proverbs 7, and he started down at 12. Let me see. Let me see if I can find exactly where he started, because he started and then he moved down. And when I caught it, I was like, oh, that's an interesting thought right there. It was but he started down lower at somewhere around 12. But I'm going to start at 1, and I'm just going to read Proverbs 7 right quick. Hey, look, we study books. I study books, and I share the information that I get from books, right? And when I pick up a book that has Wim Hof on it, and I share the information from that book, or I pick up the book that's got accessing the power of the vagus nerve, or any of those other books, right? There's parts of those books that teach me. They teach me how to move through the days, right? And I feel the same way about the Bible. I feel like, hey, look, it's trying to teach me something. So in this Proverbs 7, it says, my son, keep my words and store up my commands within you. Keep my commands and you will live. Guard my teaching as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister. And this is where it's interesting right here. Say to wisdom, you are my sister. And to insight, you are my relative. They will keep you from the adulterous woman, from the wayward woman with her seductive words. Hang on 1 second. Let me see if I'm... Yeah. So they will keep you from the adulterous woman, the wayward woman with her seductive words. At the window of my house, I looked down through the lattice. I saw among the simple, I noticed among the young men a youth who had no sense. It's funny. I noticed among the young men a youth who had no sense. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house. At twilight, as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in, then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute, with crafty intent. She is unruly and defiant. Her feet never stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares, at every corner she lurks. She took hold of him and kissed him, and with a brazen face she said, today I fulfill my vows, and I have food from my fellowship offering at home. So I came out to meet you. I looked for you, and I have found you. I have covered my bed with colored linens from Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deeply of love till morning. Let's enjoy ourselves with love. My husband is not at home. He has gone on a long journey. He took his purse filled with money and will not be home until full moon. With persuasive words, she led him astray. She seduced him with her smooth talk. All at once, he followed her like an ox going to the slaughter. That's where it was right there. It was 22. All at once, he followed her like an ox going to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose, till an arrow pierced his liver, like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing it will cost him his life. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Pay attention to what I say. Do not let your heart turn to her ways or stray into her paths. Many are the victims she has brought down. Her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is a highway to the grave, leading down to the chambers of death. Right? So he's trying to give in Proverbs, he's trying to give us some information about what to do. And so hang on, we're trying to get hang with me. We're trying to get on the radio. Sorry about this, y'all. I know it's crazy. It's crazy when it doesn't work out like this, right? When you're trying to make it work and it won't work, sometimes life just doesn't work your way. Okay, so he was talking about temptation, right? And he was trying to talk about the woman who was tempting him. But I was thinking about the temptations that take us away from health. Because when you put on the health glasses, you see the world through health, right? You're constantly looking at the world through the realm of health. And so that's what happens right there, is when you start looking at everything through health. And it was right here. It was when he, up in the beginning, at the top of that, when he used wisdom as my sister, and he was using a human being. He says, say to wisdom, you are my sister. So he's taking this thought of wisdom and he's turning it into a human being. I know there's a word for that. I don't know what the word is, right? And to insight, you are my relative. So when I read the rest of the chapter, how come it has to be that the woman that's on the street has to be a woman? Why can't the woman that's on the street be a chocolate bar? Why can't the woman that's on the street be the conversation inside my head that tells me I don't want to get up and move? Why can't the woman that's along the street be the bottle of alcohol or the whatever that thing is that's going to take me away from health, right? So if I was to read this and I was to look at this and I was to look at this particular book in Proverbs 7, and I was to think about what are those things that we fall into temptation with, that gets down here in 22. All at once he followed her like an ox going to slaughter. Right? Then when I heard that on the temptation, and I was listening to the pastor on Sunday, what I immediately went back to was the gala that I was at on Friday night. I don't know if it's crazy or not. I don't know if you think it's crazy, but I think it matters. Like, I really do think I think it matters. I think when we look back and we say, well, the gala on Friday night, and we look at the temptation and we see that table over there that was prepared for us by the women. by the women of the night, right? By the people that didn't care about my health and wellness. And they prepared a place for us. And I'm not being critical of the people, right? I'm not throwing stones whatsoever. But I'm saying that those people are trying, what are they doing? They're not even thinking about it. They're just trying to put on, they're trying to perfume their bed. They're trying to set up a place. That's what the whole gala was about in the first place. The whole gala was about coming there to raise money. So what are we going to do? We're going to bring in a speaker. We're going to get everybody riled up. We're going to feed them a beautiful dinner, and we were going to feed them the beautiful desserts, and we were going to just get them to donate to our cause, right? Regardless of whether or not our cause was good or bad, regardless how the cause went, right? It was just simply, we're just gonna. But so when they put that thing, and they decided. All right, so we got our radio show coming, and we're just gonna pick up with those guys. They're on the break right now, and so we're gonna pick up right where we left off, and as soon as they get done with their commercials, we'll pick up with them, and then we'll let them in on the second half of the show. But what we're talking about, right, is we're talking about those moments? What about those moments when we all at once we follow her like an ox to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose, till an arrow pierces his liver, like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing it will cost him his life. Will a piece of cake cost you your life? I don't know. I don't know if that's the thing that's going to be the one thing that leads to the second thing that leads to the third thing that costs you your life, right? When did it start? When did we start? And what point do we get to that temptation? And I know I don't care. Look, if you think what we're talking about, well, that's the one thing that got me on Friday night. Because when I watched that, I really understood it. One time when I was a kid, I watched a show called Jesus of Nazareth, and I watched how that show, as I watched at the end of the show when they when they tied Jesus to that big old cross. Before they nailed him to it, they whipped him and stuck those crowns of thorns in his head, and he's bleeding down his face, and they made him walk through the street towards the hill where they were going to crucify him. And when they were walking him down the street, there were a bunch of people that were on the sides of the street in the movie. And I don't know if this is what happened in real life. I'm guessing it. But in the movie, they did that all the way down the street. And people were throwing things at it as they went along. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. We really apologize for that we lost you on this first segment. And if you guys want to go back to the Facebook page, you can pick that up, and you can follow us on that first segment, and find out what we're talking about tonight. So because I know that we didn't get a connection there on that for some reason on that first segment of the show. And this is Live with Jason Clemmons, DC, coming to you on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio, 1420 AM, Lubbock Christian Nation. And we're also going full speed on the Rock Health and Wellness Center's page, and on YouTube and on X. So I know for my social media people, it's a little disjointed, and I'm sorry for you guys that are on the radio. I want to apologize for it being, but what we're talking about tonight is we're talking about temptation, and I'm going to keep on going with it. And if you missed it, you can go back and catch it on the social media stuff. So we're talking about Proverbs 7. And we're talking about how the teaching says at the very beginning of Proverbs 7, it says, "Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and to insight, you are my relative." And what to me, what I read in those, because this was something that came off of off of Sunday's sermon that I was listening to. It was and the idea that we can personify, this is the word I was looking for an idea, to say that if wisdom can be my sister, then out came a woman to meet him in verse 10, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent. Why can't that be the thing that knocks me off my wellness? Why can't that be a piece of cake? Or we're fixing to go into trick or treat tomorrow night, right? We got a whole box, we got a bucket full of candy at the front door, right? And we're just going to be passing out candy to little kids. Why do we do that? I have no idea. It's crazy, right? And we did it. We did it when we were little kids. We did it when we had little kids. I'm not throwing stones at anybody, but what I was about to get into on the radio, on the social media part of this, is I was talking about seeing that show, Jesus of Nazareth, when I was a kid, sometime along the way. And I remember when at the end, when he was having to walk to the mountain where he's about to get crucified, and he was carrying that big cross on his shoulder, how there were people lined up on the streets and they were throwing things at him. Like they were throwing rocks at him and lettuce and tomatoes or rotten food or whatever they were throwing at him. And they were saying all kinds of bad things about him. And they were talking trash about him. And they were, they'd already whipped him and put him a crown of thorn on him. And they were walking up there. And when I saw that later on, I don't know, like when I became a chiropractor, what I learned from watching that and really seeing that scene was that not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody's going to get what you're saying. If Jesus himself couldn't get people to understand what he was trying to say, and all he said was love each other, like, I don't get it. I don't know what the big deal was about. Love each other like I loved you. I'll give my life for you. Like, I don't understand what is so crazy about that teaching that would make them just want to string him up, right? But what I did learn is that even the Son of Man himself, even our Savior that came to this planet, couldn't reach everyone, right? So I know, as disappointing as it is for me, and as somewhat competitive as I can get, what I know is that I'm not going to reach everyone. And for those people who listen to me and think this boy is an idiot, I'm not listening to anything he's saying. And he can't even get his thing right. And his microphone and I found my upload speed wasn't right. And then now when you listen to me, my mouth doesn't match my sound. And it's like all this stuff. Yeah. See, there's all kinds of reasons that what you can find to throw lettuce and tomatoes at me. I'm fine with that, because I know that there are a few of you out there who are listening to what we're talking about here. And I know that there are a few of you out there that are not thinking about that prostitute of an apple pie, that prostitute of pecan pie, that prostitute of another muffin that's killing your liver. You know what I got in the mail today? I got a newsletter in the mail today: metabolic dysfunction and fatty liver disease. And it prioritizing lifestyle and non-pharmaceutical pharmacological approaches, talking about fatty liver disease and the prevalence, and it's highest in severe obesity subjects. The prevalence is highest in severe obesity subjects, greater than 80%. Those with type 2 diabetes, though many lean subjects also have the same problem. It's estimated that 10 to 25% of the people with this fatty liver disease progress to non-alcoholic liver disease within 5 years. That's what my father-in-law died of, right? My father-in-law died of fatty liver disease because he ate too many donuts, and he didn't know his whole life. He didn't know he was headed down that road. He didn't know that every single day that he was being tempted, that he was all at once. He followed her like an ox to the slaughter, right? All at once, not all at once, one choice at a time. One choice at a time, he followed her to the ox, like an ox to the slaughter. One donut at a time, one pecan pie at a time, right? He chose He chose to make that choice by falling into temptation until he was not able to do it anymore on his own. He was not able to keep himself out of temptation. Like it's an interesting thought. How far can you go down the road before your brain quits working enough to keep you from going on down the road? Right? How far can you go into temptation before you no longer are tempted? You're just firing on an automatic cylinder. You're an automatic pathway that's taking you all the way down that road. Right? And then when you get down that road and you're sick, and you get down that road and your body's breaking down, and you get down that road because of some of those choices that you made along the way, did you ever have one person along the way that said, "Hey, dude, you're walking like an ox to the slaughter," right? We don't even understand wellness. We don't even understand the majority of us don't understand wellness. We're so caught up in sickness that we live our lives on a daily basis trying not to lose. We're trying to decide whether or not we're going to have a cookie or we're not going to have a cookie. We're trying to decide whether or not we're going to have a piece of pie or not going to have a piece of pie. And we're tempted, we're battling on the side of trying not to lose, and we've lost sight of the hill that we're supposed to be climbing that keeps us fighting into the way into this next century of our life, right? Because we've lost track of that. And that's what my passion is about right there. That's what that's what I'm trying to talk about when I work on this stuff every single day. And I'm not very daggum good at it. Like, really, I'm not really that good at it. And I'm trying to be good at it. But it's like, man, and those guys who are good at it, and you guys that are fabulous at it, and you guys that have already figured it out, and you guys that that wake up every day with a why, and you're driving through that life with your why, and you're making all those choices to fire yourself up and to do those things as you go through the day. It's like, man, God bless you. You're a shining light into the world. I applaud you. I admire you. I am all on board for you. I think you should be leading the way out there. If you're one of those people, you should be leading the way out there. But hey, all of us that go into the bookstore and we find the books, just because they wrote a book doesn't mean they're leading the way. Just because they wrote a book doesn't mean that it's like, where did they even get that information? How can there be that many books? That was what was so that was surprising. It wasn't surprising. It's not like I've never been in a bookstore before, but it was just kind of like, man, like what are we doing out? What are we doing out there? And who are we listening to? And what are we doing? What are we doing with our life? What are we doing with the temptation of our life? Like, we're seriously going to talk about whether or not we're going to have any sugar anymore. Like, we're still going to talk about bread. We're still going to talk about biscuits. We're still at this point, we're going to talk about sodas. Like, well, I didn't have one today, right? I didn't have a soda today. I didn't have the equivalent of X number of blood pressure pills today, right? So I'm just going to say this. I'm trying to present for consideration. I'm trying to present for consideration that we might read Proverbs 7 and read it and take that woman who's dressed as a prostitute and substitute anything that takes you away from wellness. Take anything that takes you away from wellness and substitute it in there. Take alcohol, take pornography, take sugar, take too much time on your phone, take not being social, take not wanting to work out, not moving your feet, whatever it is, whatever that thing is that's keeping you from being well, and take that thing, right? Take that one thing and apply it to this, and and apply it to the woman. Make that one thing the mistress that just stepped out on the street. How are you going to overcome that? That was what the rest of the sermon was. How are you going to overcome temptation? The only way that I have figured it out in my 53 years now, but it took me 50 something years to figure it out, because most of those days I wasn't even thinking about it. Like most of the days of my life, I literally didn't even think about it, which is just is like blind ignorance. Is crazy. Just walking through life, just not even thinking about it. But what is going to be the thing? What the preacher said on Sunday is the way that you the way that you win when you're being tempted is to keep your eyes on your why. Keep your eyes on God. Keep your eyes uphill. That's what Jordan Peterson showed me. The best thing that we can do with our day, and I've said this on the show already, the best thing that we can do with our day is to find the most outstanding thing we can do. Figure out what is the best thing that we can do today and set our eyes on that and try to make that fulfilled in our day. Take your best thing and set your day up to fulfill that one thing. And that was his example of picking up your cross and walking up the hill. It is the number one thing that we can do. We can pick up our cross and we can walk up the hill. And everything else that we do in our day leads us into temptation. It leads us the ox going to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose. Till an arrow pierces his liver, like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing it will cost him his life. Right? You can't walk your days. You can't walk your days without paying attention to your days. You just walk right into those things, right? But then once you do realize that those things are there, once that we realize those things are there, we together can help each other. That's why being social is the number one thing for your brain. Like you see, it just all fits. It sounds so repetitive because I keep saying the same thing every week. And it's like every show, like you don't have anything new to say. And I'm like, well, you're probably right. Like I could probably get better prepared. And there's no question about that. It's one of my downfalls. It's one of my shortcomings on the show thus far. And I'm going to try to make sure that we get that better as we go through that, right? But it comes back to the same thing, and they all overlap on each other. And it's like, okay, well, I need to move my feet. I need to move my feet because my right brain's not functioning properly and my left brain's under functioning, and I'm not going to be able to get things done, and then I'm going to get acid reflux and irritable bowel and all the rest of that stuff that goes on, right? Yes, I need to take my fish oil. What fish oil? The 6.3, the EPA to DHA fish oil that gives you 3,000 milligrams. That gets your DHA to 1,000. Figure it out. Look on your fish oil bottle and figure out and get your DHA to 1,000, right? It gives you a better opportunity to control your inflammation. It gives you a better opportunity to make sure that your body is prepared so that you don't fall into temptation. And then when you do see the temptation, get your eyes on it and get your why on it. Right? Get your why on it. That's the thing that's going to make the difference. That's Leslie had a whole basket full of Reese's cups at the house last night. Yes, we're not the ones that give out pencils at our house. Should we? Probably, yes. But no, we're not going to be those people. If you come trick or treat at my house, you're going to get some candy. It's part of the game. I'll play the game with you. Is it bad? Yes. Is it good for kids to have them? No. But I got a big old bucket full of Reese's cups at the house. And Caitlin said, I better probably hide these somewhere. And I just looked at them and I was like, you don't have to hide them anymore. The mistress can walk out in the street if she wants to. She's not got, she don't have me anymore. That she's better as a memory. You guys should look that song up. It's by Kenny Chesney. It's called Better as a Memory. Listen to the song and read the lyrics while you're listening to the song. Better as a Memory. And it's like, nope. I love me some Reese's Cups, but they're better as a memory. They're better. Nope. That little mistress that's walking out, that orange and brown mistress, and that, ooh, man, love that little wrapper, how it all comes in, and you just take them out of that orange and brown wrapper, and you got that little folded cup, that cupcake looking thing, that brown wrapper on that dude. Yep. And if you get really good at it, you just take the whole wrapper and eat the whole thing all at once. You don't even have a bite. I've been there. I've done that my whole life. But now, I'm not playing not to lose anymore. I'm trying to play to win. And I finally have understood that I'm not going to be the ox going to the slaughter when it comes to sugar. I'm not doing that anymore. I've gotten into a better realm of life, and I can't wait. I can't wait to apply a healthier realm of life to my why and see what I can do now, right? Because I don't have hump days. I don't get tired on Wednesdays. There's when you're an entrepreneur and you're on your own business, you don't hardly have any days off anyway. Like you work Saturdays and Sundays and all the weeks all the time, right? So I'm not complaining about that, but it's like, look, it's like now I'm really thinking, how good could I be if I was as good as I could be? What would I have to do with my life if I really got after it? And where in the heck does that Reese's cup fit in? It doesn't any longer. Don't need it. Don't need it for my left brain. Don't need it for my dopamine. Don't need it. Right? So, all right, we got just a little. It's a lot of preaching going on Monday, but it was a good sermon. They did a good job. I go to Hillside Church, and they do a good job, and they've got like 10 campuses, and we actually watched it from the TV at home this weekend, and it was great. It was a great sermon. I appreciated it. I appreciate the calls of temptation that was there. It fit what was going on Friday night, and it's like you just want to walk into that. You want to go the ox to the slaughter, go ahead. If that's the choice you want to make, I'm begging you not to. I don't think you need to. But I want to go over one more thing because I had a good long conversation with one of my guys, and I want to say it again. And we've talked about it, and we've talked about it, and we've talked about it. But I really think that it might be applicable to what's going on with you. I want you to think about this concept of brain. We're going to get back to brain for a minute. We've got just about 5 minutes left to go on the show. And so I want to get back into this idea of brain. And I want to get into the idea of frontal lobe inhibiting flexors. I want you to get into the idea of just your brain right here, right? Your brain inside your head. And I want to get into the idea of splitting that brain. If you could kind of make a line, right, like almost right above your ears, if you could just kind of make a line in your brain, and you could, the part of your brain that sits right behind your eyeballs, right above your eyeballs, right there. And then right above your ears, that's your upper brain. And the front part of your upper brain is called your frontal lobes. And so your frontal lobes it's this front part of your brain. All right? One of the things that your frontal lobe does is it inhibits, it turns off. Let's call it turns down. It turns down your flexor muscles. Flex your bicep. Flex your bicep. What happens to your arm? Your arm bends. When you flex your bicep, your arm bends. Right? So, if you flex your flexor muscles, you bend your arm. If you flex your flexors in your forearm, you bend your wrist. If you flex the flexors in your neck, it pulls your head forward, right? Okay, your psoas muscle runs from all five lumbar vertebrae, which is your low back muscles, down to the front of your thigh bone, on the front of your thigh bone, runs through your hips, and it closes the gap. If I can flex my bicep and make the angle of my elbow shorter, and the same thing happens if I flex my psoas and I make my hip joint, my hip to torso close down, right? Those are flexor muscles. All right. So I had this long conversation with my 84-year-old guy who's got those bulging discs, right? Because I was trying to get him to understand that you have a vertebrae and you have a vertebrae. And let's just say for a second, there's the front and there's the back. There's the disc that's in between the vertebrae. And I was trying to get him to understand, if you flex forward, you smash down on the front of the vertebrae. You smash down on the front of the vertebrae because you flex forward. You push down on the front, and the jelly, the middle of the disc, gets pushed backward. And that's where the nerve is. The spinal cord is running down the backside behind. The spinal cord is running down behind, and the nerves are exiting off of the spinal cord in the back. So if you're in flexion, you are pressing on the disc, you are pushing on the middle of the disc backward, and that can go into the nerve. That's where you say, well, I just leaned over to tie my shoes, and oh man, I did something to my back. I hurt my back because I was in flexion right there, right? Well, let's just talk about resting flexion. If you're just resting, if you're just sitting here in complete relaxation, but you're flexed, if you're just sitting here like normal, but your head's down, what that means is that your frontal lobes are not working properly. Your frontal lobes are low in their charge. If your frontal lobe inhibits your flexor, that means it turns it off. So your frontal lobe turns off your flexor muscle. If your frontal lobe is on, your flexor muscles relax. If your frontal lobe is off, your flexor muscles get tighter. That means your pec muscle rolls in. That means your bicep bends. That means your forearm bends. That messes up your shoulder. That means your psoas gets tight, and it causes you to go into flexion. Low back problems are secondary to brain. Shoulder orthopedic problems are secondary to brain. I wanted to say that again because I don't think people get it. As a matter of fact, I'm certain that people don't get it, right? They don't get it, and it's hard to get. It's part of it's because no one talks about it, and then the other part of it is that's hard to get in the beginning because it's like, what is he saying? How come Jason keeps saying that? What is he saying? What? I don't even understand what he's talking about. He says these big words and it confuses me. Well, it's not that confusing if you just work it out. Your brain, turn on your brain, and you can turn off your flexors, which means you can go into extension, which means you can stand tall and your spine won't wear out near as fast that way. Hey, we've come to the end of the show. I hope you guys will come back tomorrow night from 6 to 7, and I hope we get all the connections done. Sorry about it on the radio, but well, I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night, and hopefully we could just pick up and have another great show. Thank you so much for watching and listening.